Excited, but I think now you guys are getting bored because every time I come online, I'm so excited about today. But I'm actually very excited, and like my friend Andrew Ainsworth says, I'm a little stressed um, because our guest speakers, they really stress me. They they're trying to beat, okay, saying it out because when they come online, they're going to give me stress for this. But we're trying to beat the 40 people mark. Come on. Why are we only getting 15, 20, 25 people? We need to up the numbers. The other thing also, LinkedIn is also stressing me. And it's stressing because, I something happened on my screen and then on my profile, and then next thing you know, my activities are not being shown and my alerts are not being shown, my postings are not being shown, and also when I come on live, it's not coming. I don't know, man. Technology is really stressing me out. What is the stress? Well, our topic for the day today is stress. How to manage stress. What are the different kinds of stress? What does the stress mean? Hi, Meena. Hey, that's my name, lady. My name, friend. Meena Chavla, Meena Dolwani, not Fari. Um, welcome to the show. Um, so yeah, the webcam stressing me out. Working from home, oh, that's not stressing me out because you know what? I'm very used to working from home. Been doing that for the past 10 years. Kids, life. The problem with stress is there are all kinds of stresses. Some stresses are good stresses, like the ones that I feel. Like, for example, if LinkedIn is giving me a hard time, I'm saying to myself, okay, great, you're giving me a hard time, I'm going to find another platform. So all of you out there that are joining us, will join us, come on, you need to subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is Destination CEO, so that if LinkedIn doesn't work for us next time I'm online, I could just stream out of YouTube Live and we'll still be connected. So, step one, get connected. Subscribe to Destination CEO's YouTube channel. So there are good stresses and then there are bad stresses. Bad stresses are, how to manage expectations, how to manage expenses. COVID is happening, everybody's looking for a job. How do you help people get through those roadblocks? Those are my kinds of stresses. And, on Mondays with Meena, I'll share with you similar stresses that you're going through. But stress is a part of life. It becomes a problem when we focus on it, when we focus on the negatives, when we focus on the bad ones, right? And I said so in one of my live shows with you all that if you focus on these bad emotions, this bad stress, then our brain tells our body that we need to feel a certain way. When we start feeling bad, that's when it starts messing up with our system. Many years ago when I, looks like another life, but when I decided that I wanted to be a recruiter and I went for this executive recruitment training, and I met with this amazing guru. He's called Peter Lefkowitz, Morgan Consultancy in the US. Absolutely fantastic. And he was teaching us how to cold call, how to power prospect. And one of the things he said is that, many a times people lie a lot, and those lies, like calling and saying, hey, I'm calling from the closest flower shop and we have a delivery for flowers. We'd like the names of all your female employees, just to get that, just to get the names of the people that worked there and which departments. So I love recruiters, been a recruiter, and you know that my show, I bring in a lot of recruiters. But when you start lying and you focus on bad things, and that starts affecting your body, that starts, and it just messes up the entire system. So let's focus on the good stress. Let's focus on the strategies that can help us manage the stress. Everybody goes through it. Let's hear from these big guys, Biju Misra and Sina Foley. How do they manage stress? What are some of the tips that they can give us from their professional and personal life, and how to move forward? You know that this is a live show, and when every Wednesday evening to talk to you. So talk to us, and we'd love to give you some answers. Without further ado, let me call them to the stage. Welcome, Sina Foley and Biju Misra. Hey guys, how are you doing?
Hey, how are you? How are you?
Hi guys.
Yeah,
Thank you for joining.
Yeah,
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, I'm surprised that you think that we give you a lot
Biju,
of stress.
Sina, hello.
Yes,
Mina,
I can
we
hear
can hear you.
Hey, hello. I don't know if it's my network or yours, but I can't hear you guys.
I think it's yours.
Hello.
I think it's yours.
I'm doing the Queen's
Yeah.
wave, right?
Yeah, I can hear everybody.
Me too. Well, Beach, should we start?
Absolutely. So, let's go.
This
Mina
is
will catch up.
the beauty of live. I was going to say television, but internet, whatever. Live
That's right.
streaming. So, thank you for joining us. We're going to talk about something that everyone deals with, and it's just managing stress and anxiety and why it's important to manage how you feel. So obviously, being in a pandemic, everybody is, or a lot of people are feeling a lot of stress, and that's natural. And then when you're trying to find a job in a pandemic, it's adding to that. Now, on our best days, looking for a job when we need a job is very, very stressful. So the most important part is that we want to provide some support for you and give you some tools. So a lot of the times when we're dealing with stress, we think that we're the only ones feeling this way. And we're in this bubble and no one understands what we're going through. And everybody else's life is perfect because social media is telling us how great everyone's life is. Everyone's fantastic on Instagram and living their best life. But really, when it comes to anxiety, and it's a stat for the States, but it's 1 out of 3 adults in the US suffer from anxiety. And it's 2 times as likely for women. So you're not alone if you're struggling. Sometimes it's just a blip, or sometimes it's just a longer thing that you've got to learn to manage, and that's okay because we all go through those hard times, including myself. A couple of years ago, I really struggled with some anxiety, and I leaned on a support network and learned a little bit more about myself and what was triggering me to get me through that. So, let's talk about what stresses us out and what is it? And I think it really comes down from things are not going the way we want them to go. So I want to control the uncontrollable. And when we try and do that, you're trying to force something in life that you can't do it. And so I think in your job search, it really comes down to, I see this amazing job posting. I gotta have this job. I gotta get a recruiter to call me. The recruiter has to call me. They have to like me. They have to move me forward. I just got to get in front of the hiring manager. And you know what? Everything organically will happen as it should. And I'm a believer that whatever is meant for you, you won't miss out on. So you can create a story that, I got to have this, or this person has to like me, or they have to give me an interview. But all you can control is how you respond to things. So you can't control other people and what they decide. You can only control how you handle it. So always being your best self and trying your best is all you need to do. And if you participated in our speed networking event on the weekend, some of you in my breakout room would have heard me say, if someone doesn't see your value, who cares? You don't need them. So for me, there's a couple of things. When you're stressed, it's gonna affect you mentally, it's gonna affect you physically, and it's gonna affect you emotionally. So sometimes you're thinking, oh my gosh, I can't stop eating, or I have no appetite, I don't even want to eat, I'm just so tired I can't sleep, or I'm sleeping too much. There's a lot of ways that stress is going to come into your life and show up. So learning what triggers you is really going to be important. There's a lot of different reasons why it's important. One, that we'd love you to be less stressed in a very stressful kind of world that we live in. But there's some really important reasons why it's going to help you in life and in the business world. So there's 2 exercises I'm going to teach you on, if you're feeling really stressed, if anxiety is kind of creeping up. And the first is, when we were children, we used to finger paint and trace our fingers and whatnot. So last year, a colleague of mine taught us this sort of calming effect. So you're going to kind of have, if you have your palm and you put it on a piece of paper and you used to trace it with a pen when you were younger, it's kind of the same lines, but there's no paper. You're just outlining your fingers with your other hand. I can't show you because I'm holding my phone. I apologize. And every time you go up, you breathe in, and every time you go down, you breathe out. And you can do this, thank you, Bijou, and you can do this 3, 4, 5 times when you start to feel yourself calming down. So that's going to hit some key points in you to physically calm you. And then the second one is, everyone says deep breaths, take a deep breath. But when you're really having a panic attack or a bit of anxiety, when you're going to take a deep breath, you're going to take a deep inhale to the count of 3. So you breathe in to the count of 3, you hold for 4 seconds, and then you slowly breathe out to the count of 7. And if you do that 3 times, you're really going to feel the difference in your body of things starting to calm down. And when things start to calm down for your body is when you can start to examine what's in front of me, how bad is this really, what am I trying to control? And then you could start to examine, is this something that, is a 10 out of 10 causing me stress? Or is this a 3 out of 10? And now that I've calmed down and I can breathe a little slower and everything's more manageable, can I see it more clearly? So, Mina, you talked about on Monday, you had a post that says you're a bit nervous before you had your Mondays with Mina, and I thought it was a phenomenal session. So how did you deal with that stress? You were nervous. So tell us what you had to do.
Oh, before I go live, always I do meditation. And part of meditation is breathing exercises, quite similar to what you shared. And I did that just before coming online because I knew you guys were going to ask me questions. And and I'm going to have network challenges, and part of the conversation I'm going to lose. So yeah.
Of course. Of course.
That's okay. But we support you, and we're here, and it's not a 10 out of 10 on anxiety. It's okay.
That's right.
Yeah, my heart doesn't look the greatest.
It all works out. Right?
So Bijou, why is understanding our emotions so important?
Sure.
How does that affect us in the business world, let's say?
Yeah, so a couple of things. So, I think, so there's stress everywhere. I mean, we just went through a stressful moment. So one is, of course, I think you mentioned that. I think you have to have some sort of a support network. But, and I think in the context of, so many times when I'm stressed, I kind of do step back and think about the context of that stress in the bigger picture of life, right? And many times I realize that maybe I'm just stressing about things that are important, but not so important compared to everything else that's happening in life, right? And in a workplace, so if you're looking for jobs, if you're looking for work, there's always stress, right? Because either unemployed or you're new to the country, you're trying to build a network, you're trying to figure out exactly who's where and what does that mean, you're trying to pay bills. So there's the stress actually multiplies in many ways as you go through. And no different than any work, Right? If you're working, then in times like this, you're under stress. There are many people who thought working from home would have been just fine, but they're stressed. Actually, in our latest survey, we found that lots of employees want to go back to work. They want to go back to what they would deem as their normal that was there before. And that causes anxiety and stress as well, because you're not able to see a lot of people that you would otherwise see, regardless of all these mediums or platforms, right? So a lot of the work I do is in large projects, programs, lots of people, cross culture. And there are, of course, cultural stresses that you have of how you interact with people, what that means, what the expectation is. So, you talked about that a little bit on Monday, and just there's all sorts of things that keep going on and on in your mind. So, three things I would say. One is you should be self-aware, right? You should kind of know what you're about and what that means. You should know what those triggers are for identify what that emotional moment is, or that stressful moment is, right? So there's self-management about knowing your own psyche and kind of how you react to things. Then there is self-awareness, that you know when something is about to happen, when you're about to get stressed, or you know the situations in which you're stressed. That's good to know. And then how does that translate to relationships that you have? So part of the story is, what's the impact you have on yourself under stress? And the other one is, what's the impact you have on the people around you when you're under stress? In the workplace, that makes a big difference. Like even for me, today was a stressful day, right? From 7 in the morning till probably 6 o'clock. It was a constant, lots of budgets, lots of looking at things. Yeah, I snapped a couple of times today for sure, right? And when I think back now, I'm like, I really didn't need to do that, right? Because in the scheme of things, were those things annoying me? There are some things that are annoying me, sure, but did they really require that kind of a reaction? Not really, right? I don't think so. So that goes back to those things. I think part of stress is also, a lot of the exercises that Sina's talked about, those are good. You breathe, take a stop. A lot of people say just stop doing everything. And there are times like that, yeah, where you're working on something and you can't figure it out, you're really angry about it or whatever. And if you just stop and walk away and you come back, somehow the world is completely different, right? You see things that you never saw before. You're like, why didn't I see that before? So there are times, and I think that's a good practice. That's how I kind of go through moments of stress. That Sina said it first, which is, if people don't see the value in certain things, like don't let external forces impact you so much, because there's enough that you're dealing with to begin with, right? And as hard as that is to not pay attention, that's just mental training to say, how is what somebody else is saying or doing important to me? And how does that reduce the situation I'm in? So that's one. Second one is, you ask some questions, right? What is it that's stressing me? So I think acknowledging the fact that you're stressed is important. Lots of people are in denial that they're under stress. And stress is kind of to heart attacks. There's so many bad things that happen as a result of prolonged, right? So recognizing that you're under stress is important, and there's nothing weak about it. Right? It just means that there's lots of pressure that you're trying to deal with. So recognizing and acknowledging that stress happens and you know what it is important. Second is, what is it that's causing the stress? And if you're not in a mental state where you can think about it, again, just take a break. Just go outside, walk, come back, contemplate, reflect, or do something different. I don't know, listen to music, listen to neural beats. I don't know, whatever makes you happy, right? Do that. So it gives you a chance to really identify what is it that's stressing you and what about it is stressing you. That's question 2. Question 3 is, what do you need to not be in stress? And fourth one is, who do you need to help you get what you need to not be in stress? I think it is under stress that you need a support structure the most in life, right? I've seen that, right? It is in those moments of stress or weakness or life events, whatever they may be, that's when you need to have a support structure. People you can lean on and who can kind of say, you know what, Does that make sense? Or how can I help you? Or, and try to be as specific as possible, or be transparent the fact that you don't know exactly what you need. And I found in my own life that in those moments, people will rise. People will show up from nowhere, and they will be ready to help you if you just ask for it. So a lot of times we don't recognize, we think it's a weakness to be under stress or to say, I'm stressed. And second one is, a lot of times we also believe that it's a weakness to ask for help. Whether it's your job search, whether it's life events, whether it's a career, a lot of people are getting laid off today, right? A lot of people are getting laid off in this economy today. And all of them are probably trying to figure out what to do and what not to do. And specific to job search, I think a lot of it is about, what's the basics that you need, resume, LinkedIn, cover letter. A lot of times you just get busy trying to get the basics done. It kind of takes your mind off of things. Getting organized, where you're applying, who you're applying to, what's the status of that application, what the contact numbers are, like keeping track of all that. Building a network always is something good, because it gives you the sense of smaller wins that add up to, but maybe it's not that bad anymore, right? And in corporate, there's lots of stuff. There are people who don't like you, there are people who like you, there's all sorts of work stuff that's going on. And that's the time when you have to have a support structure, really kind of hone in on what is it that you really need to be successful. And sometimes doing nothing is good. I think sometimes the best thing you can do is nothing, and then just acknowledging that you're in a position and just shutting off is probably the best thing you can do, because all that stuff will always be there when you come back. That's kind of how I deal with it. It works most of the time. There are times when I worked in Japan, we used to have a room in the office with lots of ceramic plates. And if you were stressed, you would go in the room and throw the plates against the wall, and you'd come out really feeling good. So,
that sounds amazing.
Just depends on how you deal with it.
I just don't want to be the cleanup person.
That's right. So anyway.
When you talk about working from home, I personally am a person that doesn't like working from home. And I struggled with this transition 2.5 months ago. And I thought, okay, well, how long? And I don't know. And it's fine, maybe for a bit. And then it really started to weigh on me. And I think, when you're dealing with stress and learning to deal with stress, it takes practice to be looking in the mirror and being self-aware and being like, I'm not myself. Okay, that wasn't how I was reacting, or how I'm feeling. Maybe I was a bit sharp there and I didn't need to. Something's going on. Why did I respond that way? So when you do take that pause, or sometimes when you do nothing, and why it's really good is because we're so quick to respond to things, but if you're not at 100%, then it'd be natural that you might not have the best reaction. I remember I saw this meme or something on Instagram, and it was just like a fuel tank, and we would never let our car, we wouldn't go to zero gas and think our car is still going to run. And so it's just kind of reminding ourselves, if we wouldn't do that to a car, we shouldn't do that to ourselves. So remembering that you got to take care of yourself. Everyone's dealing with everyone has stress in their life at some point. So how you deal with it matters. And being, like you'll always hear me say, be gentle with yourself. We are in a pandemic. So this is hard in different ways. And maybe every day doesn't feel very, very hard, but then, it could just come out of the blue, like in a wave, to be like, oh yeah, and we're still in it. I'm still looking for a job. I'm not getting the interviews. But now we can understand why. When I talk to a lot of candidates, I'm just like, well, positions are on hold. It's not about you being a bad candidate. We've paused with the hiring process. And just remembering that. And when you talk to people, they can remind you that. So you're not in a loop of, oh my gosh, I've got all these things I got to figure out, because if I figure this out, then this happens. I know that paying the bills and putting food on the table is the most important thing. And that's what we understand when you're stressed. But then everything else starts to, how does this add value if I'm so tightly wound and I'm struggling, it's gonna paralyze you more than it's gonna push you forward.
And those are those external forces, right? Especially when you're looking for work. And we have those questions before, where people applied, I haven't heard back. And I have people ask me that question too. And my counsel to them is always just go to the next application, right? Like just keep at it. Just play the game and just be at it. Because if you get stuck in that one position where, well, I haven't heard back and that's the job I really wanted, then you will more likely, one, external forces will kind of impact what you're doing, right? And the other one is it's just a place of negativity. And I know it's hard, right? I'm not sitting here saying that that's the easiest thing to do. And to Sina's point, it's a training that you have to go through in your mind, right? And the last thing I would say is just think about in those moments where you're like, I don't know why this is happening. I would ask that you reframe that situation and ask yourself, why in any part of your life would you give somebody else control over your emotion and your state of being, right?
Yeah.
If the answer is you've never done it, then don't. And if the answer is, yeah, you do it, then stop doing it. Because that's the motivation that's going to propel you forward, right? And that's the independence that you need to keep going. And to Sina's point, others' version of your value is not, right? For everybody, every one company that doesn't take you, there's another company that will. The question is to find that one company, right? And you're not going to find it if you stop looking for them. That's what I would say.
And just remembering that if that company doesn't take you, I mean, okay, I do often say, like, forget those people. I understand, forget the people that don't see your value. But when you're talking about a hiring process, as me, a corporate recruiter, will share with you, just because you didn't get the job doesn't mean you weren't amazing. There's a lot of other factors. We might have an internal person that's been working for 2 years for this promotion. Maybe there's like, hey, my boss's boss just referred someone, so I really got to consider them. I really liked you, but what am I going to do politically? So, sometimes you're just creating a story. Sometimes it's not, sometimes it's not, oh my God, I didn't get the job, I suck, and let me beat myself up, and now I hurry up and I got to get it. Everything organically will happen as it should if you're putting in the effort, right? Just like if I sit on the couch and eat pizza every day, I'm not going to get abs of steel. I got to work for it. But if I'm doing the work, if I'm putting in the work and I'm doing the right things, a lot of the things that we teach you at Destination CEO, then, when the right opportunity comes, you're not going to miss out. It's just remembering that there's a pandemic out there and so many people are feeling stress, and it's natural to feel it, but just what we want you to do is be more self-aware so that you can see your patterns, you can see how you're responding and reacting to things, and when you can ask for help. The most important thing you can do in your life is understand your emotions and know when to ask for help. It will save you a ton of problems, trust me. I learned the hard way though, so I didn't always know this stuff. That's the beauty of life.
What am I thinking, feeling, wanting, and who can I talk to? That's what I would say, right? Like just and don't worry about judgments and stuff like that. It's just it doesn't exist because everybody you talk to is trusting their own way, right? And I've said that even on LinkedIn before, that as much as we think we're everybody's center of the universe, we're not, right? Like we're just everybody has their own problems. So when you talk to somebody, it may actually be helpful for them too, right? Because they're like, oh my God, at least I can talk to somebody who may be in an equal position. Anyway, I don't know.
The funny thing is, as you're stressing about, I was just going to add, the funny thing is that we're stressing about, you as the candidate in the process, and how's the hiring manager doing, who's living through a pandemic as well? So, right. They're stressed on their end too. And then their bosses, dealing with budgets and all these things, and dealing with a customer issue and all these things. So, a future state, maybe when you see people, you could now start to question, I wonder why they're responding that way to me. Maybe they're dealing with something. But let's start with you and understanding your own emotions in this process. So again, it's natural to feel stressed. You're in a job search or you're in a pandemic, you're looking for work, you want to make a change, you're unhappy in your job. These are all viable feelings that matter. They're real. They're going to have a physical, emotional, mental impact on your life. So those are real. What we're saying is, there are going to be some really good ways that you can manage through that because, last time I checked, there's going to be stress in life and we're not going to be able to get around that. But what we can do is manage it better by understanding ourselves better. What are you thinking, Mina?
I'm
Any
stressed.
questions we need to answer, or you're stressed? Okay.
I'm stressed.
Have we stressed you? Are you stressed?
No. This technical difficulties are stressing me out. This is
Oh.
not nice. And
That's
nobody's asking questions.
That's okay.
So
That's okay.
trying to keep us all live on LinkedIn. Just kidding.
Gotta love technology, but we just go with it because we can't
That's
control it. So we do our best and we keep moving forward.
Yes. Come on, everybody, start asking questions. You've been asking me about, you've been talking to me about your stresses, and see, Sina and Biju are both here to answer. So ask them because they're the experts. I sometimes serve coffee to Biju.
Right. So, you give a good story on Monday, Mina, and we're like, oh, wow, that's a good story, right? That's real, like authentic that way. So what was your biggest stress?
You're asking me that?
Yeah, I'm asking you that. Like, what was your biggest stress?
Apart from us.
Apart
from the two of you. Oh, gosh, let's leave that for Mondays with Mina.
I mean, the story you narrated on Monday, like, landing new, and you said you were like not really sure about things. There's some life choices, all of you made. Like, what was your biggest moment of stress in that? Is it just uncertainty? Like, what was it?
Yeah. You know what? At that point, it was a little too much. Everything was too much. And I had to, like you said, I had to stop and say, okay, if I'm going to focus on everything, I'm going to achieve nothing. So I need to focus on one thing at a time. And, and I started doing one thing at a time. And things fell into place. And yes, sometimes it was not easy. Sometimes things went the wrong way. But at the end of the day, I'm here at LinkedIn Live. Must have done something right.
Yeah, but even like, I think job search, a lot of times people can get overwhelmed, right? People get overwhelmed with just the enormity of just doing it, right? So it's the same technique. It's like, I have all this stuff to do, but what specifically do I need to do, and which is the first one I should do? And a lot of times, instead of way to manage it, because you need some momentum, and sometimes closing the small things gives you momentum to start doing the bigger things, and you feel a sense of progress and accomplishment, right? It's the same thing. Break it down into smaller pieces and start doing the smaller pieces, and then use that as a way to propel yourself to momentum, and then kind of tackle the overall search. And then you get into a rhythm of things. Then you start, eliminating things that are getting in your way, and you kind of deal with it that way. But yeah, it's a support structure you need for that, because that's not easy. It's not easy to keep looking for things, and then you have rejection and so on. So it's hard for sure.
Yes. We have a question here, and it's from Adnan, and he says, how do you react to a situation? So stress, I think, is more like, how do you react to a situation? Sure, I guess.
Yeah, I think it is how you react to a situation. But the question is, maybe that's the question, like, how do you react to that situation, right? Which is, so there's a way that gives you more stress as you react to it. And, there's ways that you can actually calm yourself to be able to manage kind of what's going on, right?
Sure.
Yeah, one takes you into a spiral tornado kind of a atmosphere, and the other one kind of brings you back and grounds you into who you are and what you're about and what you're going through. I think the worst thing you can do in any situation is to ignore it and be in denial of it, right? Oh, no, I'm okay. you're not. You're not okay. And it's okay to not be okay, right? I say that to teams all the time. It's okay. You're stressed. There's lots of things. There's plans, there's schedules, and pressure, and you're falling behind. But that's okay, because sooner you know, the better. I used to report to a senior exec who used to always say bad news early. And I always kind of relate that to stress, which is the earlier I know I'm about to go into it, the better off I am, so that I can at least know what to do versus being in it, right? I don't see enough. You agree, or there's a different?
Yeah, you know what? Knowing that you're feeling stressed is even like, I remember years ago, I was the only recruiter in Canada at my last company, slammed with work. Like there wasn't enough hours in the day for me. And my hiring managers were like, yeah, these candidates were good, but we need more candidates. How can we get more candidates? And I was just like, oh my gosh, more candidates. It's like, when do I even have time to call more candidates? I was just drowning. And I had no idea. And at one point, like someone could have just lightly tapped me on the shoulder and said, hey, Stina, how are you? And I would have burst into tears. I was on burnout row, like fast track to burnout. And I didn't even know. I was working so hard just trying to keep up that I was incredibly stressed. And once somebody pointed it out to me to say, hey, you're not okay, is when I was just like, I got to stop and be like, oh yeah, like we're not meant, I know Toronto's the rat race, but that's not how we're meant to be. So sometimes you don't even know. And when that happened to me, it really shocked me and kind of threw me. Like I had to take a step back going, oh my gosh, what am I doing? This is a job I love, but it shouldn't be making me sick or making me unhappy. So, I had other people step in and they talked to my RVP and said, she needs help. We need resources. Even if it's temporary, someone's going to help with some of the openings in Canada. And then I could recalibrate and reset. And sometimes, you don't really know. But what that taught me years ago is I need to pay attention more to myself. I need to know when I'm not okay. And I need to do a better job in finding the resources or raising my hand and not being afraid to say, I'm stressed. I can't handle this. I need help because, I want to be superwoman. I want to be the perfect recruiter. I want to show them that I could do it. But I'm not going to be a great recruiter if I'm not okay as a person. So I had to learn to
Absolutely.
do that first and foremost.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it happens to the best of us. And, then you got to ask yourself, well, I started asking myself, like, why did I put myself in that position? Why was it so important for me to be a perfect recruiter? Why did I need that validation? And to the point that, I'm on my way to burnout. So, eventually you get to this point when you understand your emotions is that you kind of check yourself and say, like, wait a minute, am I responding emotionally towards a situation because someone did something to me, because my ego got bruised? Like, what was this? Is this about, looking the part and getting people's approval, or is this legitimately a stressful situation? There are legitimate stressful situations. Obviously, you want to pay your rent, you want to pay your mortgage, you need to put food on the table. But being able to manage a heavy workload as if it wasn't that heavy isn't realistic. So I don't know what I was thinking. So, I needed someone to step in and kind of say, wake me up from that sort of like, I don't know, that kind of phase I was going through. I feel like I'm seeing a question here from Shiley.
Yeah.
Which which support network? Okay, what did I join when I was struggling? So, so when I had anxiety, and I had legitimate anxiety, there's a lot of things that were kind of falling apart in my life, and I actually saw my doctor who referred me to a therapist, and I worked with a therapist who recommended a bunch of books for me. And being the little overachiever I was going to ace therapy and do everything I was assigned. So I worked my butt off trying to like really get through this and say like, what's going on? I don't normally fall apart like this. What's happening? Why do I have anxiety? And it was a kick in the butt. It was a look in the mirror, and it was a lot of being honest with myself. And it was a big process. And then what it also taught me to do is lean on my friends that love me.
That's right.
I would love to help them and be their go-to person. And I I learned that other people really get a lot from helping you as well. That makes them feel like a better person, a better friend. They want to pay it forward back to you for all the times you've helped them. So learning to say, "Hey, I'm not okay. I need you," was again something that I had to practice. And I'm grateful that I did, because now I'm going through a pandemic and I'm able to call people or say, like, I'm struggling, I'm having a hard time, including Mina and Bijou, and they always reach out and make sure I'm okay and give me the support I need. So it's, it's like made an incredible positive change in my life, just to learn how I feel and to be able to talk about it. And it doesn't even stress me. I have no embarrassment to say I had anxiety. I had no embarrassment to say I needed help. And when I do need help, I reach out for it. So it was practice, but then I learned the skills so that I'm better equipped to maneuver through this stressful time in the world.
Yeah, and I think it's always good to have a personal board of director, like 4 or 5 people that you rely on. Whether it's at work, I mean, family, friends, of course, always there. But even in work, there are a lot of things where things maybe not be relatable, or some situations where you want somebody who's not involved in it, so that they can just give you a different perspective. So I would strongly suggest as people, whether they're mentors, coaches, family, friends, like whoever, have those 5, 6 people that you can reach out to, rely on, talk about things, and hopefully those are 5, 6 people who are different in every way, so that you get different perspectives when you talk about those things, right? So which support network do you join? I would encourage you to build one that's good for you, and really look at in a critical way of how diverse that is, whether it's culture, whether it's opinion, gender, whatever, so that you have a good sense of a situation from all different perspectives. And I think that's very helpful when you go through this, for sure. I think some other questions too, Mina.
We
I
have
think that
a
was
lot of questions.
that was really helpful for me. Oh, we
Okay.
do? Okay, excellent.
You go ahead.
We have,
Go for it,
sorry.
Mina.
We have a lot of questions. Are you guys able to see the questions on the screen?
Not all of them.
Well, one at a
No.
time, I guess. What is the one thing that you do to manage stress? I think you've just answered it, but do you have anything to add along with build your own support network? And if I may, when you're building your support network, it's great to have family and friends, but sometimes that would be you're going to get biased feedback. So sometimes it helps to talk to somebody, a professional person, somebody who's not very attached to you, so they can give you the other side.
Yeah, the one thing I do
Yes.
is to stop and go silent for 5-10 minutes. Then I'm back again as to, okay, what do we need to do? And that's because I'm acknowledging the fact that I'm in a position where it's not working for me, and I'm not productive when I'm doing that. So it's important for me just to stop.
Yes.
That's one thing. Everybody has their own technique. So.
Oh, look who's online. Zoheb Hassan Ali. Zoheb, it's been a long time since we've heard from you. So Eid Mubarak to begin with. Now let's go to your question. How do you prevent burnout or stress in your new job, especially in the remote working environment where organizations are also adjusting to the new norm? Okay, over to you guys.
Sina, you want to take it? And I'll go after you.
Yeah, Sina is, after all, Zoheb's mentor.
So how do you prevent burnout and stress? Well, I think you have to have boundaries on working from home. So working from home doesn't mean that you work nonstop, 7 a.m. to 10 o'clock at night, just because you're home. So you have a work day with work hours and a work break. I think that you need to, especially Zohab, you started a new job, and what a strange scenario. As soon as he started, he's working from home. But you've got to honestly, even today, I had a Zoom call with 3 of my coworkers just to check in. You got to do the Zoom calls. You got to pick up the phone. You've got to take the breaks. You've got to also understand and give yourself the understanding that you're in a pandemic and you're in a new job. So there's an adjustment period. So listening to yourself and understand, like paying attention, like to your cues. Am I getting short? Am I getting like, am I just, I didn't mean to respond to it that way. Oh, I shouldn't have hit send. I wasn't like really, I didn't respond to that email properly or whatever. You've got to pay attention to yourself because you personally have worked great roles in your past life. You know how to have a job, and you know how to manage, a full workload and a lot of accountabilities. And you do have a lot on your plate. So Eb, I know that. But it's really being able to have boundaries. You have your work day and you have your meals and you have your personal time. And if you can learn, a very hard thing to do is when to put down the work phone and when to turn off your laptop. I'm not even great at it, but if you can learn those things, then that's going to help you. You just started and there's, you have to be fair to yourself to give yourself that first year of learning. So, if you're trying to give 200% and learn everything in the first 90 days, it's just not realistic. None of us can do it. So, being a little bit more realistic and pretend that, you had a new direct report. You wouldn't expect all of this from a new direct report. So kind of, treat yourself like you would a direct report. You say, okay, you're learning, there's an adjustment period, you got to learn the company, you've got to learn the policies, you're learning the team. Nothing happens overnight. So, luckily we're not really fighting fires here, so there's not the same level of urgency in the roles we're doing. But really being able to have boundaries is going to be helping you in this new work from home kind of world we're in.
So let me tell you a secret. So Biju and I, we are always working, right? Constantly. And then kind of reeled Sina in slowly, gradually. And it came to a point where, we were chatting like till 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the night. So one day Sina got really mad and said, okay, guys, because I'm chatting with you guys till midnight, I'm not able to sleep till 2 o'clock. My mind is overactive because we are night owls. We're always working. Especially in the night. So she's like, I'm telling you, I'm not going to take your calls after 9. She does, but that's not the point. She put us in discipline that now we think at least twice before we call. And I think maybe once before I message. I usually message. But, even with this, like if you don't follow the discipline, it's going to take time, but somewhere someone needs to start, right?
No, you have to, and I've come back because you can't sustain, like 15 things all at the same time, doing it all the time. You just can't do it, right? So
yes. Oh my God, we have questions and we are okay. You know what? We're going to go a little overtime today because of technical difficulties. Please.
That's okay.
Ruchika has a question for you guys. Are you able to see it?
So
or do you want me to read it?
Mina, can I just follow up to the last point? So I still wake up to 50 of their text messages. So they keep going. But I just paid attention to my boundary of what works for me. So I had to listen to myself and pay attention to say, like, you know what? If I am going to chat with them and text them till midnight, then I need like 1:30 by the time my brain slows down. I'm not going to be at my best when I'm interviewing someone at 9:30 in the morning, and that's not fair to my candidate. So that wasn't up to them to stop. It was up to me to know what was and wasn't working for myself. And all these things take time. You've got to take like stock of what works for you and doesn't. And so that's about creating boundaries and paying attention to, am I sleeping? Am I okay? Am I overtired? Am I at my best? But if I do these things and changing what's in your control. Okay, next question, Mina. Sorry.
Yeah. So in this question, so Ruchika, so you're saying you feel stressed because you're not sure about the roles to target, right? Because you believe you have roles across project management, consulting. So, without any detailed conversation about this, my initial thought on this is maybe it's not the lack of clarity in the roles to target is coming from your own lack of clarity in what it is that you want to do, right? So if you want to do project management, then so that's what I think you should think about. Do you want to be in consulting? Do you want to do a strategy? Do you want to do project management? Or maybe you say, I want to do all three, then you know the roles to target. Anything that involves project management, consulting, and strategy. And build 3 resumes or 3 profiles for that and apply, right? But if you're kind of hedging, saying, I don't know, is it this, is it that, then I can see why that could be stressful because you feel like you're not making any progress. But I would challenge you that if you're not making any progress because you're not clear yourself, what is it that you actually want to do that you would enjoy doing? Now, you may enjoy doing something different 2 years from now, but today. And if it's project management, go after project management roles. Like, don't hold back. And then pour your soul into looking for project management.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay, we have another question.
Oh, Julia, okay.
Hi, Julia. Great to see you. Great to hear from you. Even from her smile, it feels like she's on the screen right now. So go for it, guys.
Mina, I missed that. What did you say? The question's on the screen?
Yeah. Are you able to see it?
Okay.
And
Yep. What do you do when you know? Okay. What do you do when you know why you are stressed and there's nothing you can do other than wait for the result that will come in sometime?
Wait.
Well, you can't control what's outside of your control. So you can either drive yourself crazy and you could stare at your phone and wait for the call, but I don't think that works so well, right? So you gotta have the confidence to know you did your best and what will be will be.
Yeah, and then
it takes a lot of time to let that stuff go.
That's right. And the other one is, if you're concerned about the result, I think you should ask the same question. What about the result that's concerning me, right? And what could be the possible outcomes of the result? But you're right, there's nothing you can do. But if it makes you feel good that you've thought about what the possibilities could be of a result and you've thought it through, that may reduce some stress for you, because you can say, okay, if the result isn't what I want, then what am I going to do, right? But be careful not to overthink that scenario, right? Because everybody has a habit of doing that. At one point in time, it's like going on the internet sometimes. You start in one place and next thing you're like surfing websites with dogs. You're like, why am I looking at dogs? I didn't even know I was looking for dogs. So you don't want to get into that situation, right? Don't overthink to the point where you played out all these scenarios that just creates more stress for you. Yeah.
By the way, Biju is a dog person.
Hey, and it's not like all stress is bad stress.
Of course.
all stress is not bad stress, but if you can't control, like, you're not going to be able to fast forward to get to the result.
Very true. All right, Ashray has a question. Who wants to go? Who wants to take it? Ashray and I had a long conversation today, so
Mina,
I'm going to let you guys.
Read it?
Okay. We're all doing great. Thank you. After connecting with a business leader on LinkedIn, it always stresses me out when I can't take the relationship to the next level. I'll wait for a few days or a week for their response, but if I don't hear back, I follow up again. And after the first follow-up, I would stop doing it because I don't want to annoy them. How do I deal with it? So I guess his concern is that he gets ghosted.
Go ahead, Sheena.
I feel like we have a common theme here where we want to control the outcome of how someone else will respond.
And you can.
And, that person might be on holiday. That person might not use LinkedIn. That person might have a profile, but they don't really check it because they're not looking for a job. Or, that person might be very uncomfortable with networking. And they they just don't know what that, if I accept it and then you're going to ask me questions and I don't really know, do I have to refer you in my company? Like, you might be causing them anxiety. What about that? Oh my gosh, can you imagine? You guys can't control how other people respond. So somebody will accept your request on LinkedIn, or they will not.
Yeah.
Or they will ignore it because they haven't logged in. There's only 3 options, guys. And you can't
And-
control any of the 3 options.
And I
Keep
have,
moving. Keep
and we
moving.
have some mentors who are going through that as well. We're not even checking their LinkedIn. So, you know, it's no biggie,
Yeah.
right?
Like, you just have to keep going, right?
You just
It's
have
no
to keep
different
going.
than you
Yeah.
apply, you don't hear back, just apply for the next one. Don't contemplate so much on what you just did, because it's a bad place it can take you. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so how do you use meditation to manage stress? Well, kind of, in my case, it
Nina?
calms me down. You know, I'm always on my phone, always on my laptop, so it's almost like digital detox, even though the meditation music is playing in the background. But yeah, it's just like we just said, you cut off from everything and you just go into a space inside yourself. You remember why you're doing what you're doing. And you know, those breathing exercises that Sina mentioned, absolutely fantastic. Um, it's Try it, Julia. I could send you some links if you want. I try it. It works for me. How does it do it? It's magic. I have no idea. But, you know, it just calms me down. And then I have energy to come live here with these 2 big guys and, you know, face you guys and have a conversation. And that does require guts, I have to admit. But anyways, that's how I deal with it. But you guys go ahead. I know Sina and Biju, you both have different kinds of meditation techniques and how you deal with it.
I agree. So it's different. I think different things for different people. You know, I'm challenged to sit still for more than a couple of minutes. So that's mine. So the way, you know, I deal with it is just different. I just shut down and walk away. But that's how I deal with it, right? And then I find after whatever 5-10 minutes, I'm able to refocus and get back again. Yeah, I don't.
So what
I
you're
need
saying,
to meditate.
what you're saying, Biju, if you disappear for 10 minutes, we just have to wait for 10 minutes and then message you again. All right. Sina, now we know. 5:30, we can get him at 5:50, maybe. Do you want to say something about this, Sina?
So I have always struggled with meditation. It's just not been my thing. But it will be something I will continue to try and keep on the list, right? I am a person that pays attention to how people respond to life in general. I'm always paying attention, asking people how they cope with things, and listening to myself and understanding that probably my ego's bruised here. Like, why am I responding this way? And the other thing is, sometimes I just call my friends and kind of just complain and get it off my chest and then move on. So sometimes a good vent with your girlfriends feels good. And then you move on. I don't let myself stay in that though. Like, you got to get, it's a 5-minute feel sorry for yourself, or this is unfair, or I don't get this. And then I know that's not going to solve anything. So I give myself just a small window, and then you got to pick up and move on and just keep going through, because it's just how we respond. It's really about how everything you're dealing with is about yourself.
Yeah, like there's this notion of
so how to be self-aware and see those patterns where things are going wrong.
Sorry, Biju, you started saying something.
No, I'm saying there's a thing around above the line and below the line when it comes to your mood, and below the line is where you're just kind of in a really bad place. And to Sina's point, you should stay there very short because you acknowledge it. Then you start thinking, being above the line, to really think about what is it that you need to do to get to a better place than where you are. Right? Mm-hmm. How to be self-aware. it's to observe. Like it's practice. I don't think it happens. I think it's a conscious effort to recognize when you're feeling something. Versus there are times when you're like surprised that you're feeling something, like you feel that it just comes on. Being self-aware means that you recognize what triggers an emotion, and you're aware when it's happening. So when you say when things go wrong, especially when applying to jobs, I would start there. Like, what is it in your view is going wrong? What does that actually mean to you? And then go to the next step to understand how do you feel when that's happening. And the more you kind of think about it, then you'll know, oh, this is what I feel when things are going wrong for me, right? That's like the best part. And once you get there, then you'll know, because you know what the trigger is, you know what you feel like, in that situation. So that's how you become self-aware, right? Because next time it happens, you'll be like, oh, I know it's about to happen. So what do I do now?
Okay, just to add to that, write it down. Make a running tally, like
Yeah,
when you're feeling
absolutely.
stressed. Like,
That's
what
right.
happened? What triggered me? Like, what was the scenario? How did I respond? And what did this make me feel like? And then, as you start to see, like, you'll start to see a pattern when you start reading through this. But I think it depends. Like, when things are going wrong with the job search, does that mean you're not getting interviews? Like, are you sure you've got the best cover letter and resume that you're presenting? Are you getting interviews and not hired? Are you getting close? Like, it just depends on what that is. And, are you kind of setting an expectation that's unrealistic, right? Because we don't control what happens. You can apply for a job and then you let it go. And if you get called back, great. And you go through the process, or you don't go through the process. Like, it's sometimes, if you could try and remove the emotion or the attachment to something, it will make the ebb and flow of this a lot easier. And that's not, I know, again, practice, guys. It takes a lot of practice.
Like I have a couple of friends who do these morning pages every morning. I couldn't. They do, and it works for them. Where he just writes like 2 pages, doesn't stop, like whatever in his mind. There's no structure or sent. Like he just keeps writing and writing and writing until he dumps his thoughts down, and that's how he deals with it. And for him, it's a proactive way of knowing kind of what's happening to him, so that during the day he can manage it, right? So that's another technique where he just writes like 2 pages every day. I'm like, man, that's a lot of thinking. Holy jeez, that's 2 pages every day, and he just keeps writing and writing and writing until he's done, and puts everything down, whatever he's afraid of, whatever it is. There's some other techniques on. Tim Ferriss does this a lot with these 5 Bullet Fridays, where at the end of the week you're like, what happened to me this week? What did I learn this week? Who did I think about this week? Like those are like, so I think that those reflections and kind of understanding where you are, I think goes a long way to knowing what's happening with you, right? And what part of your life you're there, not there, how difficult it is and why it's difficult and what do you need. And I think writing or talking about it is good. You can record yourself. That's what I say. I mean, just, if you really want to know, just make a, voice memo on a regular basis and just listen to those things, because you'll reflect on them for sure. And it'll help you maybe proactively identify things that are getting in your way, or inducing stress.
Yep.
Interesting. And see,
Look
so
at
many
that.
comments are
That
coming,
question
and
is deep.
I know, and we're over time, but Biju and Sina, because of my technical challenges, are going to give me 5-10 minutes more. So we're going to go for. See, I didn't even ask. I think I asked earlier, but it's okay.
Yeah.
In your approach, do you think stress and anxiety is just us procrastinating or wasting time, or a logical state of mind that people suffer? Coming from our little Hiba in Dubai.
It's not wasting time, and one of the outcomes of stress anxiety, one of the consequences of stress anxiety may be you procrastinate things just because you're just in a different mood, right? But it's a phenomenon. Like people don't create it; it happens, right? It happens to everybody, And it is a logical state of mind. And I don't know if you suffer. Again, you have to kind of reframe some of these things, right? Are you suffering from it, or are you just kind of acknowledging that those things exist? And that's different, right? So suffer to me is like something negative versus it exists.
I
And how
think
do I
that,
manage it?
sorry, Bijou, I think
Yeah.
the two are very different. I think you can experience stress and suffer from anxiety, but
Sure.
I think that, you know what, it's I don't think it's wasting time. Like, is how you feel and your experience a waste of time? I don't think so. Sort of like fundamentally, I think people I think it's a real part of our lives, and it's just really about how do we manage it better so that we can maneuver through those challenges when they come into our life, and we are more equipped to handle it in a way that doesn't, kind of make us frozen.
Yeah. Completely agree.
Right. Next
Mina,
question.
you should take this question, Mina. This is like right up your alley there.
I didn't even look at. What would you
Hooray, yeah.
suggest to build up a relationship with professionals relatively senior in an industry, given you cannot go for coffee these days? Call them, tweet them, bug them, message them. Today, you know what? I'll tell you a fun thing, and I hope, Tojo, you're watching, because I'm hoping that you'll respond to my post. Today, a couple of my students, I noticed, shared a post from somebody, a recruiter from Google. Okay, and I want to mention this because I know that the recorded versions will be heard a few times. We get hundreds of views on the recorded version. So if you see a recruiter from Google on Google posting a position with a link saying you need to have a resume of this format, and that link is taking you to Fiverr, because that's what it is, it's taking them to Fiverr, asking them to pay $40 for a specific resume format, and then send it to her, I can guarantee you that's a spam. All right? So the last time something like this happened, it wasn't a job scam, but it was a specific question. I had reached out to Laszlo Bock, who was then the VP of People's Operation at Google. So he was the person who makes decisions. But Laszlo Bock has since then moved out. So I first contacted a couple of people that I'm connected with on LinkedIn. I tweeted Google Canada. I've messaged their VP, and I'm waiting for a response. The bottom line is, how badly do you want to know this person? Why is this person so important for you to connect with? If they are important enough, reach out once, twice, 3 times, right? If they don't want you to approach them, they'll tell you. But you know what? Just because you tried once on LinkedIn and you're waiting back, and this is telling you too, Ashray, if you're waiting for somebody to respond back, they may not have an answer for you. They may not be checking their messages. They may be dealing with something. We are having people change positions, getting laid off. They may have their own demons. So you want to get to know somebody, make it genuine, make it authentic, go after them. And tell them that you're not going to give up unless they hear.
Give them context. I mean, you don't have to be a stalker, but give them a context of what the meeting is about, so that people know, right? Like, I mean, don't go after people to the point where they're like,
please no stalking.
Yeah, that's right. You don't want to do that, right? But at least put some context to the story so that people understand what it is, that you're not following them home and those kind of bad things, right? So
please don't do that.
Yeah, exactly. Don't.
But you know what? You have to think about senior professionals. Sorry, senior professionals, or like anyone, a friend, someone you want to date. Like, you can't force this, right? Like, you can showcase why it would be a good idea for you guys to be connected, but some things have to organically happen, or maybe they don't check LinkedIn, but at the end of the day, there's no foolproof way to be like, this is how we guarantee a senior person will respond to you and be there for you and answer all your questions. It's just, people are people, everyone's different.
Adnan, the minute you said senior professional, You took away the important aspect that that senior professional is also human, right? And every human responds differently. I don't look at a CEO or a VP or a senior professional as a senior professional. They're just as human. I am just as senior as they are. You're just as senior as they are. Reach out, give them context, like we just said, make a case. If they don't want to, then you know what? It's their decision. Sometimes no, actually, always no means no. Okay, over to the next question. Hiba wants to know, is there a certain method to not overthink and dwell on situations? All right. Biju, you're really awesome at this, so I'll leave it to you.
Why? Because I overthink? Is that what you're saying?
No, because you stopped me from doing that. That's
No,
how this
so
whole Destination
listen,
CEO process started,
no,
right?
listen. First of all, I think everybody kind of has their own way. I can tell you how I do it, and then maybe that relates. One is when you overthink, like, how do you feel? Like, how do you know you're overthinking? Well, because it puts you in a position or a state of mind that you just don't like. Either exhausted by it, or you're trying to solve a problem you can't solve. You're like, oh my god, like what am I doing, right? So it goes back to, again, self-awareness, to knowing what that is. And the other one was, whatever you started thinking about, there must have been some outcome that you wanted. Like there must be something, right? Like, so once you know those things, then you'll know that you're overthinking. And how do you deal with that? I mean, you can dwell on situations, but I would go back to the same thing, which is, how does dwelling on anything move you personally, professionally, whatever, right? As a person, as a human being, as an employer, employee, whatever may be the case. And if your moment in time isn't necessarily moving you in any direction, then I would ask you to just do a self check and say, am I thinking this more than I should be? Right? It happens in workplaces a lot too, right? Where you have teams of people who will just debate about things, and then one person will say, I even forgot what the problem was. That's when you know you're kind of way off and thinking about something. You got to stop and say, okay, what am I thinking, right? So if you're going in that process and you're not getting a result, stop and go back to saying, what did I really start thinking about, and why was I doing that, right? And that will hopefully save you some time. That's what I do, and there are a lot of times when that happens, and I have to stop myself and say, I don't know why I'm overthinking this, right? Simplicity is good. You have to be simple. You don't need to be simplistic. They're two different things. Simplicity
Wow.
is good. Being simplistic is bad, right? Being simple
I would
is
add that
good.
you trust the work you did.
Yeah.
So if it's a decision you made or a project you handed in or you applied for a job, you need to trust that in that moment you did the best and you move on.
Yeah.
And so I feel like some of it overthinking is like you don't want to make a mistake, you don't want to regret anything, like,
Oh,
oh my God, did
yes.
I do this right? I just leave it. I don't even stress about it.
Yeah.
So let's end it on a high note, guys. It's 7:15, and what would be your final words of wisdom on how to deal with anxiety and job stress? Job search stress.
Stress.
Yes, too much
Really,
stress.
I'm going to say,
go ahead.
job search stress, understand that it's important to find a job, and we know that. But you cannot control what's happening outside of yourself. So trust that you're going to be prepared. Hopefully, you have a good mentor. If you're working with us, great. We're excited to work with you. But, in general, if you're prepared and you do your homework, you practice your interview questions, you have a good resume, you're doing the LinkedIn thing, you're networking, you're doing all the right things within your control, then you got to just take a deep breath and trust yourself. Trust the process, and the right things will come to play. And anxiety and stress are going to happen. Take your deep breaths, talk to your support. You're allowed to complain and have a bad moment or bad day, and start to think about, why does it bother you? You are good enough. Someone's approval of a hiring manager or recruiter's approval of you is not what you need. you are good enough. You're going to get the job. You're going to be okay. And if you put that at the forefront of what you think and the way you act, will start to follow that. And you won't get so caught up in all the external factors, because that's what's really driving us crazy with anxiety and stress. External factors, approval, and I want what I want when I want it. But you're going to get the job that's right for you when the timing is right.
Yeah. So I completely agree. Like, know yourself, kind of know what's causing you stress, see who you need, who can help you. Get the basics down in the job search, get all that resume, LinkedIn profile, all that stuff sorted out, get it organized, because that organization brings some structure it'll make you feel better because you feel you're in control, which is important, and you will be. Who you're applying, where you're applying, who the contact is, follow up, like do all that. And to Sina's point, yeah, practice and prepare. Like, just keep doing it, right? And interviews and stuff, you can just record yourself and just watch it over and over again, right? So,
Mina, let me just add one quick thing. Remembering that we're teaching you some skills here, and it's not just that once you get that job, there's no stress.
right.
It's going to be there. It's going to be there after you get the job.
Just as though
why is this so important? Because these are skills that will help you be better in the workplace. This will help you personally, and this will help you professionally when you work on this. So the stress will be in finding a job, and then getting the job, and then
keeping the job,
meeting everybody, and then learning the job, and then being in the job, and the next promotion, going for the promotion. So since it's going to keep coming and coming and coming, let's work now on how we can better manage it so that you're better equipped to deal with it when those situations come up. Over to you, Mina.
That's right, Mina. That wasn't so bad, Mina. That was good. Some technical difficulties, but this was good.
Yeah, I think it was absolutely brilliant, and thank you guys. This was so enlightening, and yes, it was also stressful. But no, I'm just kidding. Love these guys, and that's why we do this show. We do this show to bring you value. How to look for a job, resume templates, all of those stuff. You can find it everywhere. But what you come to Destination CEO, when you come to us, when you come to our support network, and this is my support network, we're talking to you as humans. We're talking to you one-on-one. We're talking to you with trying to give you the best value. And we have a little bit more planned for you. So Destination CEO was open 60 days for the month of April, and for the month of May, we had all of our classes open to the entire community. All of you were welcome. We also hosted a couple of really good events, and I know that many of you showed up. You benefited. I've had some great success stories, some great feedback, so thank you for all of that. One more thing that we're doing this Saturday, we are having a masterclass on resumes, applicant tracking friendly resumes, from the perspective of a recruiter. So if you want to attract agency recruiter, what are some of the things that they're looking for? And it's going to be facilitated by none other than Mayuri Ramesh, who is a Destination CEO participant, graduate. She found her mentor with us and got her first job, and now is giving back as a mentor as well. So please join us for this amazing workshop. The link will be in the comments, and it's also being circulated through Eventbrite. Another thing, many of you have emailed me, reached out to me, and asked me for time and asked me more about the Destination CEO program. So we did have an orientation session today, which few of you attended. Thank you for that as well. And you have confirmed that you'll be joining us. For those of you that want to join us with this very special prize, 85% off, only for June cohort, which starts on the 1st of June. You have your last opportunity to reach out to me now to join our orientation on Sunday. Chances are you're probably going to get to meet with Biju and Sina, and they're going to be stressing me out to try to complete all the details in 20 minutes, and I'm going to try. That's not the point. The point is, if you want to join with our special prize, it is last opportunity. Sunday is the orientation from 12 to 2 Eastern Standard Time. So please keep in mind. The link will be in the comments. The link is being circulated. Be attached with us. If you're not following us, please follow us. Please connect with us on Destination CEO LinkedIn page. Please connect with us and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are constantly facing LinkedIn challenges. So if we don't come live on LinkedIn next week, you know that you will find us live on YouTube. So be connected, beware, and we're always here for you. Thank you very much for this evening. Have a wonderful, wonderful day ahead or evening ahead, and do whatever you want. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Be stress-free and see you in 2 weeks. That's what.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
right.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.